I am T Colin Campbell. I hold an endowed chair at Cornell University in the Division of Nutritional Sciences. My official title is Jacob Gould Sherman Professor of Nutritional Biochemistry. I'm also director of the China-Oxford Cornell Project on Diet and Health. If one looks at the people living in countries where the risk of disease is particularly high, for example, and they move to a country where the risk of that disease is particularly low, and they don't change their genes, in other words, they don't intermarry with the local population, they get the disease of the country to which they move. And on the basis of that information, it was generally concluded some years ago that genes did not contribute more than about 2 to 3% of the risk for cancer, for example.
Is that there now have been dozens of studies, so-called migrant studies, when we know that when people move from one risk area, from a high-risk area to a low-risk area, vice versa, they get the disease of the country to which they move without changing their genes. Interesting. So it's an environmental, and would argue largely a dietary sort of phenomenon. But I sort of wonder a little bit why it is that these days we're emphasizing genetics so much as a cause of disease. I mean, I'll just say this, every single biological event that we experience starts out with a gene. But that does not mean the genes are sitting there and sort of doing their own thing. These genes have to get expressed. And that's where nutrition comes into play. And so, quite frankly, we've known in the field for a long time that not more than 2 to 3% of cancers, for example, that is really attributable to genes. It's nutrition. Okay. Largely from these migrant studies.